So as usual, guys, all information on this channel is for educational purposes only. Don't sue me. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. It's June 21st, 7:40. What a day it's been. I wanted to put out a video yesterday, but things are kind of crazy. So at first glance, you might think the DAO contagion somehow transferred over to Bitcoin. But if you're paying attention to technicals, I think you'd be able to see that we were definitely way overbought. Lots of euphoria kicking in on Twitter, including myself. You know, Bullphoria is hard to contain. But a key to the overbought outlook was this chart that I made. Looking at the previous rally and bubble, whatever you want to call it, we were pretty far off from this Kijun, which is the equilibrium line. You can think of it as an EMA. Price always wants to return to certain levels. Kijun is a good example of that. So you can see here we were $177 away from the Kijun, which screams that we're way overbought. And then the next candle we get a tweezer top, which is another signal that we're overbought. Tweezer top confirms on this candle. We just keep going. The other signal that we're overbought here is this thing called the TK disequilibrium. So the Tenkin, this dark blue line, and the Kijun, light blue line, those want to be as close together as possible, as does the cloud. The cloud wants to be thin, and it doesn't want to be thick. Everything wants to be in equilibrium. That's why you'll see thick cloud, then thins out, and then we decide where we're going. I mean, there's a chart pattern here as well. So that isn't the only reason, but they kind of complement each other really well. Even if you don't know what ascending triangle is or how it works, you should be able to see that based on the cloud. We're getting less and less support resistance. It's go time, depending on where the price is, and you can see it broke out. Well, it's easy to say in retrospect, but it cleanly broke out in early to mid-April, and then we had a TK cross on around the 18th, which was a good indicator that this was going to go. But anyway, so we had TK disequilibrium here, $23 and $40, and you can see here the distance from the Kijun was much larger, and the disequilibrium was larger. You can say this is it's not a percentage, it's a flat USD value, so it's not applicable, but whatever. The point is, it was oversold in both cases, and it was telegraphed really nicely using stuff like this on the cloud. So if you look at where we are now, the biggest thing I can see is this volume is insane compared to this entire rally. We have the highest volume candle on the daily, which closes in 10-17 minutes. So that's interesting. The other thing is we haven't quite hit this Kijun, which again is the 50% fib, which is roughly the 50% fib of this entire move. We may or may not go that far. I'd like to see us go that far, and that's where my bids will be. The other part of this is the inner fib of this little move, this last leg up here. You can see that we're not really respecting much of these levels. We did hit the 236 pretty cleanly. So I don't know where this is going. People are saying this is due to Bitfinex. People are saying this is due to the strawberry moon and summer solstice or some other garbage like that. But really the technicals were there for this to happen, and things like Finex shitting the bed just pushes it over the edge, So it's one of those perfect storm deals where everything sort of aligned. So if you were short from the top like I was, good for you. And yeah, so today I wanted to talk about how to use social media effectively. My top tools are Twitter, Telegram, TradingView, Teamspeak, and subreddit Bitcoin Markets. I'll put all those links in the description for you. But first, let me talk about Twitter. So you'll notice native Twitter, it's kind of hard to use. If you've never used Twitter in your life, it's hard to know who to follow. It's hard to know really the purpose of Twitter at all. But really, there's no other instrument that's better at disseminating news information as quickly and efficiently as possible. You really just have to know who to follow. I mean, you can lurk on Twitter, for your entire life. You don't have to ever post anything for it to be valuable, and that's really key. So I went from completely ignoring Twitter, poo-pooing it, to really living on Twitter now. And one thing that completely changed my experience was this thing called TweetDeck. So you can Google it, and you can add it to your browser, or you can get the desktop version. And so you see the difference between Twitter and TweetDeck. Twitter really wastes a lot of valuable screen real estate. It's really an inefficient use of your screen. But if you look at TweetDeck, I have these really consolidated columns here, and I can see exactly what's in all of them at all times. The other part of this is, that's really awesome. Now this is part of native Twitter. You can make these things called lists. So I can make each column a list, and in the list you can put whoever you want to put in the list. So again, curation of Twitter further. So I have news, crypto news, traders. These are people who generally throw out a lot of tweets regarding crypto, Forex, altcoins, whatever. And then you can separate this out further. I have my mentions, crypto people, some other politics, some other lists, and then PMs eventually on the side there. And so this is really easy to see everything all at once. So I went from ignoring Twitter to really living on Twitter, and I think you can tell if you follow me on Twitter, I'm a very avid tweeter. So even if you hate the idea of Twitter, trading without a Twitter account is really a mistake, I think. And you really want to follow people who you trust, who you want to learn more from them. I have this traders list that I'll put in the description. You can follow that list, and when I add or remove people, it'll just automatically pop up for you. So that's really cool. And then if you ever start to use Twitter, it may seem that the whole 140 character thing is pretty miserable, but it really promotes self-editing, which I think is great for quickly disseminating news, especially financial news, because it kind of shuts off all the bullshit. It's like stick to your facts and get rid of all the adjectives. So it really lets me personally stay focused on what I need to say as efficiently as possible. Obviously, you can use abbreviations, etc., to get your word out. So really the hardest part about Twitter is knowing who to follow, and that'll kind of come naturally as you use it more. But yeah, the other part of this is you really want to cut down on the noise, the garbage, and focus on the signal, who's giving you value and who isn't giving you value, and obviously focus on the people who are giving you the most value. So the next thing I want to talk about is Telegram, which you can download. It's free to use. It's a messaging app that is encrypted, and there are various groups you can join. There's Whale Club, Coin Farm, Whale Pool. You have all your PMs here. So again, this is another way use social media efficiently. It's kind of like Mos Eisley, where it's like you don't know who you're talking to most of the time. When I first started trading, I was using Teamspeak, which worked really well for me personally because it was like 30 people. They all knew way more than I did. I would just listen in to what was going on. I just had screen time with all these really valuable people who knew a lot about everything that I didn't know anything about. Whale Club isn't what it used to be, but it's still in existence on Teamspeak anyway. Now the big trader Teamspeak is Whale Pool, led by Flibber largely. there's always people talking in here about the price. There's Phil Potter, who's the Bitfinex CSO, which is nice in times like this when Bitfinex is complete garbage and going down every 5 seconds. And the other thing you can do with Teamspeak is you can mute people you don't like hearing from. You can change their volumes. There's also a chat system in Teamspeak, so you can type and talk to other people as well. And then the last thing I want to talk about is Bitcoin Markets, which is a subreddit that is focused on trading, specifically Bitcoin trading. They always have a daily discussion thread. Most of the daily discussion is garbage, I would say that, but there are some people in there who give valuable TA advice, valuable TA knowledge. There's a guy, Emekmo, he only does point and figure charts. You won't see those anywhere else other than his posts. I'll put his profile in my description as well, so you can check that out. But he's always really good at explaining everything. There's a few other people. You kind of just have to read and figure out who's who and what's going on. But again, it's another place to look for information. There's always the troll boxes, which are the chat bars in the various exchanges. I avoid those completely. I avoid the troll box in TradingView completely. Most of the people in there type complete garbled nonsense. Following them is definitely at your own peril. So that's all for the social media that I use. And again, you want to keep the signal to noise ratio where it's most effective for you. Where we're going in price from here, I don't know. This Bitfinex FUD is definitely a big deal and impactful, but as I said, the TA stuff said it was going to happen to me anyway. You can also see RSI, which I haven't even mentioned, really overbought for a long time, but that can happen when we're rallying in a bubble. So as always, guys, leave me comments, questions. What do you use effectively that I didn't mention? If you want to get a hold of me ever, talk to me on Twitter or Teamspeak or Telegram. Thanks.